Hi everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and we are moving really quickly along into the semester. So we're moving into week 11 of the semester, which is fantastic. So right now I'm talking to both my 15 and 10-week sessions because finally my 10-week session has caught up to the same material that we're covering in my 15-week session. So we're all kind of on the same page right now. So last week we covered population. And a lot of you did a great job answering our ecological footprint. So why does the U.S. have such a large ecological footprint? This is because of our consumption problem, is that we just consume so much. Now, in relationship to China, remember, China has triple the population that we have, but yet in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, in terms of consumption rates, we actually are very close to China. And that is crazy because we have so many less people than China does. So it's a big problem moving forward. We are going to need to decrease our ecological footprint. We need to change our consumption habits. I mean, I'll be honest with you. We're doing some work on my house right now, and we had to move furniture around. And I cannot tell you, I was so disappointed in myself teaching this class that we have so much stuff. I'm just talking about everybody has so much stuff. I have little kids, so they have like toys and Legos, and I have a daughter with these Shopkins, and I mean, it's just the amount of stuff we have is just ridiculous. And I was getting angry at myself, purging because I couldn't believe how much stuff we have. Now, granted, I live in an awesome neighborhood that has like a Buy Nothing campaign where we have this Facebook page and we can share items. So I put a lot of it on Buy Nothing, which made me feel great because it didn't make its way to the landfill. I sold some stuff. We have these swap and sell sites, so I sold some stuff, made me feel good. But I mean, it was really, really upsetting to me. Even me, I really do think about it often, how much stuff we have. And I try not to bring anything into the home unless we get rid of something. We still have so much stuff. So it's difficult. And we live in a really tiny house. So to have, we live in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and to have all this stuff, it weighs you down, and it does feel so liberating when you get rid of it. So, hey, if any of you are doing some spring cleaning, let me know. I promise it'll make you feel good. The other thing is a lot of you answered the population problem with China a lot of you did answered it with great detail. So the New England Journal of Medicine article is great. It does speak about some of the issues. So the policy has been removed. It has been repealed, but it may take a long time for this for the social consequences to subside. So China put the One China Child policy in effect, which means that you were taxed if you had more than one child, heavily taxed. So people in the city a lot of people who lived in the main cities might have been able to pay for the tax, but people who lived in rural China were really affected by the One China Child policy. And so the issue came about is because, if you could only afford one child, and in China, culturally, boys are worth more than girls. So they carry on the family name, they are the social security system, and they can work. And so what happened is a lot of times when women or when the family had a girl, they killed the girl because they knew that they couldn't have another child if they kept this girl. So there have been large amounts of girls that have been killed. Now abortions are illegal in China, and so were ultrasounds, but women were having illegal abortions, and they were having illegal ultrasounds to find out the sex of the baby and then having the abortion before the baby was born, if it was a girl. And this has led to major problems. Number one, a lot of girls were hidden in villages, and now that the One China Child policy has been redacted, these girls are coming forward, but they have no social security card. They have no, their villages are like, you don't exist. Well, yeah, I do. I mean, can you imagine that? Is that to China, they do not exist because they never had the proper paperwork filled out. So that's one thing. The other thing is the sex ratio problem, is that there's way more boys than girls in China. This is causing a couple problems. Number one, sex trafficking or marriage trafficking. The other thing is that if Chinese men have to go outside of China to find a wife, a lot of people are worried about the Chinese culture, because if you marry someone from outside your culture, maybe you marry someone from Japan or someone from another culture, and when you get married and have children, then you have diluted that Chinese culture. So there's a lot of those issues. The other thing is China wants to be a major player economically. The issue with this is the fact that now they don't have enough people in the workforce because they had stifled so many girls. The girls and boys together would have been a strong population, but now there's not enough people to work. The other thing is that now China has to take care of all of these little girls in orphanages. So the large percentage of orphanages are made up of girls. Now the United States has agreed with China over the years to help out with that. And if you, I have tons of friends who have adopted Chinese girls from China, so that they have adopted them, and actually the adoption process is easier than it is to adopt a child in the United States. So you know, they have made leaner, I guess, adoption processes. It doesn't mean that it's not hard and it's not expensive, but it is something that the United States has worked with China over. So these are, you know, some of the One China Child policy issues. If you haven't read the description yet, there's a really good National Geographic, and it is on Netflix, I think. It's called The Lost Girls, and it's a really good National Geographic with Lisa Ling about the One China Child policy issue. Now it has been redacted, so we'll see what's about to come. So this is so we're in the population. The other thing is resources. Remember, what are going to be the strains if we go above that carrying capacity line? Remember, there's that carrying capacity line. What'll happen is that's how many resources can support human life. So remember, the big resource issues are going to be water, food. Big resource issues. Land will not be as much an issue because we can build up. But food, water are going to be big resource issues when we're talking about carrying capacity. So what happens is our population will shoot over that carrying capacity line, which a lot of people say is 10 to 11 billion. And look at how quickly we have moved from 7 to 8 billion. So we are moving very quickly towards that 10 or 11 billion. And then what happens is it says that we will start to feel the restraints from lack of resources. So lack of water, fresh water, and lack of food. So these are big things to come. And so we need to really be think about those things. The other thing is I know a lot of you refuse to read the article on Thomas Malthus, but it's a really great article. I mean, this guy wrote this article, centuries ago, and he talked about the fact that, hey, we're going to be this is going to be a huge issue in the future. The one thing that Thomas Malthus couldn't foresee is the fact of, mechanicalized agriculture production, which is what we have done, is we can mass produce food. And so his articles really talked about the fact that we were going to have all this death because we weren't going to be able to mass produce food. Now we've been able to do that, but that if you watch the film Food Incorporated, you saw that that there can be a lot of kinks in that system, is that even though we're mass producing food, it doesn't mean we're mass producing the right food. We're mass producing corn, which is really has no nutritional value. Okay, so if something happens to our food system, we really do not support enough diversity in our agriculture, so diversity of crops, and we also don't produce local. So a lot of our stuff is shipped in from, hundreds to thousands of miles away. And, if something happened, we wouldn't be able to get to a local farm. So these are big issues that are coming up. Now this week, so if you are in my 10-week session, if you're in my 15-week session, due by tonight, 11:59, is your quiz on population and your artwork draft. If you're in my 10-week session, your artwork draft is due next week. Okay, so next Sunday by 11:59. If you look here under population, I have the review for the final up. So I want you to start writing out your answers. A lot of you did not heed my warning on the midterm, so I'm asking you to really start preparing for the final exam now. It will be very difficult. In my 15-week session, there will be questions from the midterm on there. In my 10-week session, it will just be from this point forward, from the point of the midterm forward. So there's a lot to look forward to on that review for the final exam. So this week, in all my classes, both my 10 and 15-week sessions, we're covering water. This is one of my big topics I love to cover is water. And it's not the fact that we don't have enough water. We have plenty of water. It's the allocation of water and the fact that most of the water on the Earth's planet is salt water. So what we need to do is we need to figure out ways that we can convert salt water into fresh water, which is very expensive and very time consuming. And the problem is we're very accustomed to paying our $20 to $30 water bill a month. But I would say within your lifetime, your water bill will be more than your cell phone bill. And for a lot of people, that's going to be really difficult to pay. And it's a social justice issue. So there's a lot involved with water. So this week we're going to cover water. If you're in my 15-week class, your initial post is due by Wednesday, response post due by Friday, quiz due by Sunday. If you're in my 10-week class, your initial post is due by Tuesday, response post by Thursday, quiz by Sunday, and don't forget, if you're in my 10-week class, by April 9th, 11:59, your art piece is due. Okay. Also, I want you to look ahead. If you look here, non-renewable resources requires you have watched Gasland. There's another big question on your final exam about this film. It is on Netflix. It is on Amazon. It's everywhere. It's a very good documentary. Get your hands on it. Start watching it now. I think you'll be horrified by the way that we drill for natural gas, and and this is one of the big contention points in the Trump administration. So I think that you should watch the film and get an idea about the film. So this is, and also Yucca Mountain is in non-renewable resources, and Donald Trump just gave the go-ahead that we're going to renew Yucca Mountain. So we're going to start clearing out the cave again to store nuclear waste in the middle of the desert. So, there's a lot going on in terms of the environment and our new administration right now. So look ahead. Sunday tonight, due by tonight, which is April 2nd, you have your quiz on population. And if you are in my 15-week classes, you have your artwork draft due. Coming up next week, and don't forget, there is under population, you can see the review for the final exam, so start preparing. In both classes, the review for the final exam is there. And then coming up this week, we have water. So your normal due dates. If you're in my 15-week class, it's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. If you're in my 10-week class, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. And again, in my 10-week class, remember, your artwork draft is due next week. Okay? So I'll provide ample feedback to your artwork drafts. If you work really hard on them, you'll get full credit, and then you won't have much to do as we move into these last 3 weeks in the semester. I know, it's almost over. Keep up the good work, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a wonderful night.